OPEC Secretary General says demand for all forms of energy is forecast to rise by 23% through 2024. Meanwhile, Nigeria, which has struggled to meet production quotas set by the oil cartel, is grappling with severe cases of oil theft. Nigerian authorities say they will destroy a Cameroon-bound 800,000-litre vessel intercepted with crude oil believed to be stolen, while security operatives discovered 64 illegal crude oil connections and 77 illegal refineries in the Niger Delta. Oyeyemi Oke, partner at AO2 Law, shared insight into the ongoing efforts to end crude theft in Nigeria. He spoke to CNBC Africa earlier on. Take a look.
If you look at the size of the vessel, at least based on the pictures and the visuals we've seen, it doesn't look like a small vessel. So it calls to question the issue about securities of our waters. But going beyond that, now, the question again we need to ascertain would be, one, how did that vessel get so much crude in it? Two, has adequate investigation been made? Because before you, and I'm speaking strictly as a lawyer now, in terms of criminal liability, sometimes it's necessary to ensure that all elements of a crime are established before we can say there is a crime or there has been a crime that has been committed. So why I'm saying this is that it's necessary for the relevant authorities to make the relevant investigations so that we are certain that actually a crime has been committed.
And talking about going forward with this sort of intelligence that we've gathered now, well, the next line of action usually is the destruction of such a vessel. But do you think that's the right way to go in terms of this sort of move to nip in the bud such repeats?
Yeah, I mean, so I have personal reservations with regards to destruction of vessels, and I'm saying this on the basis of the environmental impact of what would result as a consequence of the destruction. So, if you have destruction of the vessel, then what it means is that, or typically what we've seen is that when the destruction is being done, is actually being carried out on our waters, and this means that there is a degradation of the environment. The waters become more polluted than what we even have. You know that we are also battling the challenges of pollution in the Nigerian waters with regards to the consequence of oil activities. Now, if we now deliberately decide to burn such a vessel, what we're doing again is we are contributing to the destruction of the environment and organisms within the environment. So the environmental impact makes it a bit undesirable with regards to the next line of action, which is destruction or burning of such vessels. Perhaps the regulatory authorities need to explore other options in terms of enforcement that would have less impact on the environment as opposed to burning and causing biodegradation of the environment. I have that concern, and that needs to be looked at as well.
But do you think Nigeria can actually win this war against oil theft? In the last decade or so, Nigeria has lost well over 16.5 trillion naira in terms of losses due to crude oil theft. At this point in time, do you think Nigeria can afford to do that? And what should be the task ahead in terms of mitigating such losses, especially for the fact that we are still trying as much as possible to increase our revenue generation base? Hence, we cannot afford such revenue losses or loopholes.
Whether we like it or not, we must win this war against crude theft. The revenue of the country, oil theft has been the bane, one of the significant challenges in the last 4 years for oil operators. We've seen instances where certain operators have actually shut in production because the oil. So we have no revenue to. There's also a challenge of what I would call a guarantee of investment. Investors who have invested in those oil assets are unable to recoup, and this also would lead to a rippling effect of them being unable to live up to their credit obligations, one. Two, you would also have instances whereby employment are affected. So if we're unable to win the war, then we would not be in a good place economically, one, as a nation, and two, perhaps with regards to individual needs from an employment perspective.
According to reports, we have 64 illegal crude oil connections discovered, 77 illegal refineries destroyed in Niger Delta in the past week. How do we meet up our OPEC quota or our targets with this sort of reports just happening just last week? And in terms of moving forward as well, how do we begin to position ourselves much stronger against competition like Angola?
So in terms of meeting production quotas, one of the challenges which we have been speaking about in the last few minutes is oil theft. If we are seeing significant volumes being diverted as a result of oil theft, definitely as a nation, this would affect our production volumes and quota. I'm meeting up of the quota from an OPEC perspective. In terms of what we need to do, I think in addition to what I have said in terms of sustainable enforcement procedure, we also need to deploy technology in terms of monitoring our pipelines and also securing the Nigerian waters. If we do not do this long term, we may not be in a good place.
Yeah, the previous administration had said it is adopting the Saudi Aramco security architecture, and that's what's being mimicked here. Is that flawed?
Well, I mean, again, if you look at the Aramco model, there's a lot of deployment of technology in terms of monitoring oil theft. I don't think we have that type of robust arrangement. So I think the arrangement which we still have still has to do with what I would call the manual system in terms of enforcement. We need to leverage a lot of technology to be able to monitor the endpoints of the flow stations or the pipelines which we have in order to ensure or minimize the incident of oil theft. Technology is very important.
And let's also bring into focus now modular refineries. Do you think that would take a footing under this administration?
What we have seen in terms of the investment drive for modular refineries hasn't been encouraging. We have just a handful in Nigeria operating as at today. One of the things we need to ensure to be able to also galvanize production or refining of crude oil in Nigeria is to also create what I would call an enabling environment. Now, the operators of modular refineries, as I am aware of, are also bedeviled with certain regulatory requirements that also increases the cost of doing business. Now, in order to ensure that we have investment in these areas, we need to ensure that we reduce the impact of cost of doing business. If we do not reduce the impact of cost of doing business, then we may not be stimulating the required interest in investment. So modular refineries are good, but again, the challenges which the current operators have is that there is a high cost of doing business. There is a high cost in terms of ensuring that they open the doors or the doors remain open, and government needs to look at, one, ensuring that the business environment is friendly in order to organize investment, and two, remove bottlenecks that would also stop investment in this area.